go. And then we will be back to Maximo, all the way from Bahamas. Chuck was saying that after tomorrow we'll have traveled 6 days straight in really calm weather to get to Andros, and we will have come back 6 days straight from Andros all the way home. So we have to make it by 11 a.m. tomorrow is when the wind picks up. So we're leaving at, our goal is to leave at 2 a.m. Although it looks calm here, it's been a really rough morning. The shrimping and the fishing boats even know that this cold front's going to be a strong one, and they've moved from the Gulf into the Tampa Bay to ride out the front. We were up at 2 a.m. just as we had planned in order to get off to an early start, which is good because it looks like the front's coming even sooner than we thought. It was a super rough morning, really rough seas, storms all the way around us. It was especially scary at 5 a.m. Spotted a boat coming right at us super fast. The waves were going over their bow, so I don't think they could see our lights at all. And they were almost on top of us, and Chuck had to stop us and sit on the horn in order to try to get their attention. We were just grateful that we didn't have an accident. Needless to say, my nerves were shot after that 5 a.m. boating encounter. And it didn't help when we started to enter the last bridge before reaching our port when we heard yet another Coast Guard call. It was saying that there was a sailboat abandoned, anchored in the middle of the channel to Maximo Marina, which is our port. So we were going to have to go around it in order to get back to our dock. We had from the Florida Keys at least 2 boats who set their EPIRBs off. Usually that happens when a boat is sinking in severe distress, and we don't even know if they found one of those boats. We had a Coast Guard call where one boat ran aground outside of Marco Island, and we had abandoned boats being found in between. And then now this last call. So we were going to be very happy just to get docked at the marina. We were so excited, happy, and relieved in order to be docked safely in our port. It had been an epic adventure. Cleaning out the food from the refrigerators and the freezers was a priority, as we needed to turn the fridge off so that the ice that had built up could really melt down. So we hurriedly cleaned everything out, grabbed a few clothes, and we headed home to take a long deserved nap. After a long nap, we organized things around the house, and it appeared that everything had done really well while we had been gone. Then we were starving, and we headed out for dinner at one of our favorite places that we had been waiting for 2 years to open in the neighborhood called Sesh, and it would not disappoint. We turned out to have a wonderful evening there, really great food, really great atmosphere. Obviously, we were in a good mood, and we had wonderful service, and it was just an excellent experience and a great way to end the day. Of course, we were still a little rolly from all of the waves being back on sea versus on land again, and it would take a few days for that to go away. Let's talk about money. With all of our vacations, I like to keep track of how much money we spend so we can decide and factor that into our future vacations. On health insurance, the first category here, we spent $700 on a 3-month policy with GeoBlue. It's very important to have health insurance because medical care in the Bahamas is super expensive, and GeoBlue was a plan that all the hospitals would accept. Because we returned early, they also allowed us to cancel for the 65 days that we were gone, and that gave us about a $250 refund, so this is a little bit overstated here. Permit, the minimum cruising permit for 3 months in the Bahamas is $300, and even though we left early, you do not get your money back from the Bahamas. Fuel, we spent our most expensive category here, $6,518 on fuel. Overall, I don't think this is a bad number. It's probably a little bit understated because we are a little bit under the fuel level now versus when we left, but we don't want to refuel because prices are expensive and we don't plan to use the boat much more for this year because we're going on the Big Van adventure. Marinas. We spent $700 for stays at 2 marinas, one night at Bimini Blue when we first checked in to Immigration and Customs, and the second time was Emerald Bay, There was a huge, like 50-mile-an-hour cold front coming, and we were worried about being out at anchor in that severe weather. And it was 3 weeks into our trip, and we really needed to get fuel, water, do laundry, get our hotspot from BTC. So lots of errands we needed to do. I will say that we stayed at Emerald Bay for 5 days, which is not what we had hoped for. But in total, we had 6 days at the marina for $700, which is not bad. But once you're in Emerald Bay, the surge, if it's coming a certain way, the wind comes into the marina, creating the waves, and the breakers super strong. So we were kind of stuck there once we were there until the storm and the waves had subsided. Groceries. Groceries turned out to be very expensive in the Bahamas. Obviously, things are shipped in. We spent $633 in groceries while we were in the Bahamas. This did not include the provisioning that I did before the trip because I didn't keep track of that very well. We also took what we thought would be 3 months worth of food. So we took a lot of food, we came back with a lot of food, and Chuck caught fish while we were gone that we would frequently eat as well, which didn't cost us any money. I will say Hillside Grocery, which was in Long Island, was the best grocery store that we went to. The prices there seemed more reasonable, and they also seemed to have a much better selection, depending upon the day. Some days they would have deli meat, some days they would not, but they were the only place that we found that had decent deli meat. Restaurants. This number really surprised me. We spent $1,438 in restaurants because there really wasn't a lot of places to eat in the Bahamas. So we didn't go as often as I thought we would, but because food is expensive to ship in, it is expensive to eat out. So you'll see here we ate at some really great places like Tropic Breeze, by far 5 stars, loved it, but it was $96. We had, what else? Hidden Treasures was another great meal. I had lobster, it was $90. That was in Cat Island. And we had Chez Pierre, which is off the charts, $190. And actually that's a little overstated because Chuck bought a t-shirt in that number. But there's some really great places, and there's just some average places. But it's really hard if you look at this to go out and have a lunch for less than $70. Even Choppy's, which wasn't that great, was $71. So expect to pay a lot if you're going to go out in the Bahamas. Trash, there are 2 categories for trash. I don't know why it didn't put these together, but we spent $4 to pay to dispose of our trash. If you go into the dinghy dock in most of the places, there would be a government area where they had set up for trash disposal for cruisers. So most of the time the cruisers could dispose of their trash for free. Internet. This number really surprised me. We spent $585.99 on internet. Our plan going in was to buy the international plan with Verizon at $100 a month for Chuck. We were gone for 2 months, so that was only $200. And then I was going to get a BTC, which is the local cable communications channel in the Bahamas, which would allow me to get a hotspot, and that's what I was going to use because we heard a hotspot with a SIM card was the best way to go. Unfortunately, it was frustrating because it took us 3 weeks before we could find a BTC store that actually had a hotspot that was able to help us to get to use it. And then when we did use it, what we found out is it's $40 every time to charge it up. To get data, the data they give you is minimal, so it only lasted about 10 days. So after doing this 3 or 4 times, we were like, we're done. And so I added on the $100 Verizon plan, monthly plan for my phone for only the 1 month by the time we figured it out. What I would say is that everywhere we went, Starlink, people had wonderful luck with that. So Starlink is definitely the way to go. Even though Verizon had coverage down in the Ragged Islands, they cut us off to emergency calling only. So we couldn't call and we couldn't use our Verizon internet down there. But all the Starlink people had internet all the time, everywhere, and it was fast, unlimited. Dinghy gas. We spent $187 on dinghy gas. We knew it was going to be a lot of dinghy gas, but we drove around a lot because you're anchoring out. You're not paying for a marina, so your dinghy is your car, so you're going to spend a lot of dinghy gas. So I'm really happy with that number. Don't think it's that bad. Rental car. Our rental car, we spent $390 including rental car gas. We rented a car twice, once in Emerald Bay so that we could go into Georgetown, and that was for 2 days, and then once in Long Island. We were again waiting out a weather window in Long Island, and so we rented the car so we could explore the island. I think that was money well spent, honestly. Miscellaneous. We broke 2 of our fenders during that really bad storm at Emerald Bay, and we were scared not to replace them. We had 2 break, but we only replaced 1. It was $191. It would have been half if we would have waited till we got back to the US, but we were scared to wait in case we needed it again. And then Chuck spent $44 in Thompson Bay for some fishing lures because we kept losing a lot of lures, and lures over there are expensive, for a total miscellaneous of $235. Water. Our water at Emerald Bay is where we fueled up twice, and that's where we got water. It was only $125. We're super excited with that number because before we went to the Bahamas, everybody told us you needed a water maker. If you get a built-in water maker, a permanent one, that runs you $4,000 to $6,000, and we had always planned on doing that. But then we thought, wait, let's see if we go to the Bahamas, if we really need to spend that kind of investment. And I'm glad we did not, because we had no issues. When we got water, we were getting fuel already, so we would have been at the marina to fill up. We conserve, we do well. I will mention there is a portable rainmaker that you can buy. I think it's like $700. But again, our 125 was way cheaper than the 700, so I'm glad we did not invest in that. Tours. This shocked me. The only money we spent for tours was the Hamilton Cave tour, which was worth every penny. But I really honestly thought we would be spending more money. I guess the rental car to go see things, but everything we saw was for the most part free. The snorkeling was free, hiking was free. We did the fishing, which would be our dinghy gas, but pretty much free, especially since Chuck was catching fish, so we were able to save on our food costs. Laundry, we did laundry twice during the 65 days. The first time was at Emerald Bay, and it was free to do your laundry there, even though you had to wait a while to get to the laundry machines, but it worked out good. And the second time was at Rackside Laundry. We had heard this was a fabulous place to do laundry. We didn't have the best experience, but how fun and exciting can laundry be? And the last category is the Garmin InReach. This is a little satellite communication system, and we used it so that when we were out at sea, every 4 hours it would ping to let my mom know where we were, since we were out of communications with our cell phones and internet. So this made her feel better about the trip, and it made us feel good to know that somebody else knew where we were last. So we spent $86 for purchasing it, and we also paid the monthly fees. This will work out good too because it has an emergency button you can hit that goes through the satellite. And I think for the van, if we're hiking, we'll be in parks where there is no cell phone service, that it will be good to have. So it's something that we'll keep. So now let's look at the final total. The final total that I have is close to $12,000. Again, this excludes our preparation food and our drink costs. But we had planned on being gone for 90 days when we estimated $15,000 for the 90 days. So in actuality, we were only gone 65, so this works out to $184 per day. I don't think that's a bad number, but we were hoping that it would be closer to what we spend average per day in the van, which is around 150, or Chuck was even hoping it would be less. I do think had we stayed the 90 days, we would not have spent a whole lot more money and would have come in probably at the $15,000 or better. And for everything that we got to do for $184 per day, that's the price that someone would pay for a hotel room in a lot of places. So I feel pretty happy with the numbers. I know a lot of people ask, would we go again? I think that at the beginning we had decided we weren't so sure we would go on this trip again. We were leaning to not do it. But as the trip went, and when we look back on the videos that we made, we realized that we had a really great time. So the weather was a downer for us, so we probably will go at a later time next time, like May or June. And even though it will be hotter, but it will be less windy, which gives us more mobility, and we will go for that trade-off.